Hi, Emily. It's good to see you again.
Hi, good to see you too.
So today during our session, I wanted to talk about pain neuroscience
Okay.
to help get you a better understanding of what's going on with your pain and to
Okay.
help you kind of understand where it's coming from. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about was how pain can act as an alarm.
Mhm.
So when you're little and you're exploring the world around you, you'll encounter things that are dangerous to you and can cause harm.
Mhm.
Uh, for example, something that's hot can burn you.
Mhm.
So when you feel that pain, the sensation of burning, you withdraw from it to protect yourself. Um, and the problem is, in chronic pain, your brain becomes wired to sense things that are not necessarily painful or
Mhm.
shouldn't elicit pain,
Mhm.
but then your brain's perceiving them as painful. So you're not actually having any damage, it's just the pain sensation. So that's something that we want to work to overcome.
Okay.
So, for example, that would be like rather than touching a hot stove that would burn you, it'd be like touching, having a feather brush your skin
Mhm.
and having that be painful.
Mhm.
And that doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah. No.
Um, so, um, can you think of any examples where your body has adapted to some sort of stimulus, like or a painful thing, that you have a weird reaction to that's not what you would expect?
Mhm. Yeah. Actually, when you were talking about like the alarms in your system, for example, when I set my alarm in the morning, I hate getting up in the morning and it makes me mad. And I'm so used to that ringtone. So when I was in the grocery store the other day, that was someone's ringtone, and it just made me mad when I was standing there because I'm so used to being mad when I wake up.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a great example of how your body can have a maladaptive response to something that it shouldn't.
Mhm.
So good, very good. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was how pain doesn't necessarily correlate with tissue damage.
Mhm.
So um, when we have an acute injury, like we talked about, you definitely want to have that painful sensation to help protect yourself.
Mhm.
Um, but if the damage is like severe enough, it could potentially take about 3 months to heal. And when your pain persists longer than that 3 months, longer than the time that it takes to heal, that's what we consider chronic pain.
Mhm.
And in that stage of pain, you're actually not, you don't have tissue damage, so that painful sensation, but the painful sensation is still there. So it doesn't necessarily correlate to pain.
Mhm.
An example of a study that was done looked at patients with chronic low back pain.
Mhm.
They took a number of age-matched healthy subjects and did radiographs of their spine,
Mhm.
and they found that nearly 76% of those healthy people had the same, their spinal degeneration was the same as the patients with chronic low back pain.
Mhm.
So you see how that shows that there's not a lot of correlation between the damage and
Right.
the actual the pain itself.
Right.
Good. So, and then another interesting story that a friend told me. He's a tattoo artist, and so I was asking him, are there areas of the body that could be more painful to have tattoos done on? And he was saying that, yeah, it varies a little bit in different body parts,
Mhm.
but a bigger impact on pain would be the reason that someone's having the tattoo done. So if they're like memorializing a loved one who's passed away, a tattoo that they have done might be way more painful than someone who's celebrating an accomplishment in life or
Mhm.
like the birth of a child or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, so even though the tattoos are in the same spot, they're one's way more painful than the other just based on the mental state of the person. Um, can you think of a time when maybe you had an injury that the response of pain didn't necessarily correlate with what you thought it should be?
My first thought goes to needles. Like, for example, when I got my ears pierced, that's something that I really wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't hurt at all. I was fine. But let's say I go to the doctor, I'm already all worked up because I don't like going to the doctor, and I get a flu shot or any type of shot, then that hurts way worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it differently. When you think I would have the same reaction to ears piercing, but
Yeah,
it's different.
that's a good point. It's definitely like you're in a different mental state, and your nervous system might be ramped up, and so it just your body has a different response to the same painful
Mhm.
stimuli. Good. And so then the last thing I wanted to talk to you about was pain sensitization.
Mhm.
So basically, you're having the same um, painful stimulus come in, and other factors can contribute to that pain being more intense, even though the level of stimuli is the same.
Mhm.
Some examples of things that might cause sensitivity include lack of sleep, frustration, stress, things of that nature. Um, so then I have a graph here to kind of show you how, like, this can be your pain level,
Mhm.
and these things are summative. So you have like different stresses and tissue damage and fear. If these things are all coming like together around the same time, it can influence your pain,
Mm.
despite not having like additional an actual painful stimulus.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, um, is that like? Can you think of any examples right now of how you might be having any symptoms like this, or factors that are stimulating your sensitization to pain?
Yeah, actually, when I first looked at this graph, I think of stress, and something that's stressing me out is that my family is like sick of hearing me talk about all the pain that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's stressful that I don't have my family support behind me,
Okay.
and a fear, or you could say worry. I've been having some financial problems, so worrying about money. So those are two things that could be playing into my pain as well.
Okay. Yeah, and like you have this pretty consistent high level of pain, and it sounds like those factors can be lingering on for a long time. It's not like it
Mhm.
starts and then ends. It's just
Yeah.
constantly there because your family is, you see your family a lot, and financial burden is kind of always on your mind. So
Mhm.
I can definitely see those contributing. Something that I think might be a good activity for you to do is create like a journal for
Mhm.
your pain. So what that might look like is you have the date on here, and then
Mhm.
like the day of the week perhaps, and then you can kind of when you feel like a change of pain, or whether it's like increasing and worsening,
Mhm.
or you're having a better day, you can describe that a little bit here. I don't want you to think too much about like being caught up on like the pain rating scale, and I don't want you like thinking about your pain too much, but just
Mhm.
a simple description of it, and then also indicating like what's happening in your life at that time. Are your bills due?
Mhm.
Or is it the holidays where you're seeing your family a lot more? And then as we get a list of these things, we can keep look for any patterns and try and control the things that
Yeah.
cause you to have more pain sensitization. Do you think that's something you could work on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, very good. So I think that's all that I wanted to cover today. If you don't have any more questions, I think we're all set.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
All right, very good.
All right, thank you.
Yep.